some folk meeting for the first time in many years. I'm Anthea, and together with Robert, my partner, we're co-founders of our space. We opened in 2011. And out of the blue, Harry Shier emailed the gallery we had never met before, asking if he could possibly hire to show his late mother's work along with his brothers help Donald. Now, it just so happened that he, in his eloquent description of his mother Laura, he described her as the teacher at French school, and also that she was a member of the Cancer Research Committee in Lisbon. Well, that rang a bell for me, because so was my mother. Nora Boyle was on the Cancer Research Committee, and I could find the photograph with both women in it in the 1970s in Dalboyne House in the Belsize Road. So I think that's when we first knew we would do business together, and hopefully welcome all of you here today and to celebrate talent, a life, a contributor to the Lisburn cultural aspect, and also for you to enjoy some images of landscapes. And if you notice any of them and you know where they are, please let us know, because we have an incomplete list of the geography of it all. So I'll pass over to Harry, who will say a few words and enjoy, relax, and help yourself to some impressions. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you very much. Let's check. Are you my cousin?
I am indeed.
We haven't seen each other, so I'm sorry about that. It's occurred to me. Thanks so much for coming. Sorry about that. Yeah, so, yes, very briefly. So those who don't, I think most of the people here have come because they were at school with Donald or whatever, but for those who don't know, that's my brother Donald over there. And our mother, Laura Shier, although she grew up in Cork, she came here to Lisburn as a young woman. Actually in 1939 she came to teach at Friends, and that's to remind me about putting money in the car park. So as soon as this is finished I'll be off to do that. If anybody could lend me a British pound, because we came across the border with British money and said you can't use your card in the car parks here. Yeah, she became part of the Lisburn community. She lived the rest of her life in Lisburn until she died in 1996. She married here. Obviously, Donald and I were born and grew up here. So although she was born in Donegal, grew up in Cork, Laura Shier was very much part of Lisburn, and that's why the only place we could possibly put on this exhibition was in Lisburn. So, and I was asking Donald, we don't know if Laura Shier, our mother, had any formal painting training, but we know that she had a natural knack for it, and she'd always painted since her teens. So over the years in Lisburn she became a respected, noted local artist, and she had exhibitions of one kind or another since the 1960s. And actually we found the old visitors book. It's over there on the table, so have a look. That visitors book was a wedding present that our mother and father, Laura and Eric, received. It's actually from Ivan and Betty Gray, who was Ivan was the head of Friends School back then, before Neville Newhouse, before Arthur Chapman. And it's actually, they've inscribed it. So they used that for family events. All the people who came to my christening in 1954 are there. But once Laura started to have exhibitions, they used it for all the exhibitions. So you can actually see the various exhibitions from 1969, 1978, 1984, up to the very last one in 1996 at the Harmony Arts Centre. You can see who came to the exhibition. So we've left that there. I'm thinking, do please write your name. Maybe don't use the old visitors book. Let's respect Laura's memory, but use the comments forms over there, yeah? And tell us what you think, and then we'll add them on. But we have that kind of uninterrupted story of all the exhibitions that Laura had in Lisburn over the years. And the last exhibition yet was 1996, and I think her heart was failing, and she knew it. And I think she was aware it was going to be her last one. And by the end of that last exhibition in 96, everything had been sold. And when she finally died and Donald and I went through her stuff, we were left with almost nothing of her artworks. And that's the way it was until a few years ago. Donald had to move house last year, and I went over to help clear out his old house. And we came across these old sketchbooks. Donald actually had a go at me about the name I decided to give to the exhibition, The Lost Sketchbooks of Laura A. Shier. He said, they weren't lost. I carefully preserved them in a filing cabinet. And I said to him, okay, that's fair enough. But the carefully preserved sketchbooks of Laura Shier doesn't have the same ring for marketing, so we'll say they were lost. They were in the filing cabinet where they were lost.
Lost
so,
to you.
Yes. So, and the other thing is, these sketches, these are mostly sketches from her later years. Like she did this throughout her life, but these were from her later years. And once she retired, she had time, and she kept on cycling well into her 70s, and she would get on her bike with her watercolours in the basket on the front, and she would cycle around the country roads. So she seemed to like the Strangford area, the Coyle River area, and then there's a lot of Donegal, and a lot, as Anthea said, we don't know where they are. So if you see one that doesn't have a name and you know where it is, tell whoever's on duty and we'll... Yeah, so basically she used to, and the reason I call it captured views is she just used to see something in front of her that would catch her eye, and she would just stop, get out the paints and paint what she saw in front of her. And what she planned to do then was come back home to the Macrolay Road where we lived and work these up into the larger, what she would think of as finished painting. She did oil paint, she did watercolours, and then the original sketches that she sketched in the fields, she would just put them away. And she never really intended these to be seen framed like this and seen as finished works. But when I saw them again 30 years later, I thought, there is something amazing, something beautiful in these, that this is what the artist saw as she sat there in the countryside, in the hills by the lake. This is the view that she captured as she saw it. And I thought they really do deserve to have an audience. So that's why I found Anthea and Robert, and we got to where we are. So that's it really, that's all I wanted to tell you, just to give you that a bit of a story, why this is such a very interesting, unusual and unique kind of an exhibition. So the thank yous. Thank you of course to Our Space, to Anthea and Robert. I mean, we do have a sort of commercial arrangement, but this could not have been done without their skill and knowledge. So it's not just a commercial arrangement, it's really appreciating the expertise they put in. Look how beautifully this has been hung and curated, and so I appreciate that. I was hoping Colin Flack would be here, but I don't see him. Colin Flack runs Oakley Art, which is just literally round the corner in Bridge Street. When I went to see him, he used to live on the Macrolay Road, just a few houses from us and just a few houses from the school. And he runs an art framing business. So I managed to, there's about 140, 150 sketches altogether. I managed to frame 38 of them, which is enough. But there's another 100 or so in these books. But you can buy these as well. And there's another book of the smaller ones over there. So if you decide to buy an unframed print here and you go round the corner to Oakley Art, Colin will give you a 35% discount on having it put in any frame of your choice. So although he's not here, I'm officially thanking him for helping us out in that way. So now other two people I hope will be here as guests haven't made it. So I'll just say very briefly that if we make any money by selling pictures here, not guaranteed, but half of it is going to go to a good cause, a charity, the Museum of Childhood Ireland. There's some information about them over in the corner there, and if you want to know more, scan the QR code. But I'm working voluntarily. I'm retired now, which means I can take on voluntary work, so I'm working with them to organise a team of child advisors, so that when they eventually get the Museum of Childhood Ireland up and running in its own building, the management will be advised by child consultants who will make sure it's a genuinely child-friendly kind of museum. And so we need some funds to keep that going. So at least half of what we get from this exhibition after cost is going to go to them, so I'd like to mention that. I was hoping a representative from them would get here, but they haven't made it yet. And the other thing to mention is, this is my last thing, honestly, sorry. This year is the 250th anniversary of Friends School Lisburn, which many of you actually attended. And our family has a very unusual, I think maybe unique connection with Friends School Lisburn, because our parents were both teachers there. Not only that, they met, fell in love and married at Friends School Lisburn. And their first married home was a little gate lodge that used to stand at the gateway of Friends School on the Maherlave Road. And when I was born, for the first 2 years of my life, that was my home as well. I actually lived in the Friends School gate lodge. And then Donald was born, we moved to a house on the Maherlave Road. But for years, in the 60s and early 70s, all four of us were going to Friends School. Laura and Eric were teaching, Donald and I were studying, and I added up the years. Between the four of us, in the 60s and 70s, we were 90, from the 1939 when Laura Shier arrived up until she retired, 90 years the four of us were at Friends School. So it's a very special family connection. And so I wanted to recognise that connection. I was hoping Stephen the Head would come down and say a word. But the Friends School are very much linked into this exhibition, and hopefully some of Laura Shier's work will be reflected in the Friends School celebrations later in the year. So I just want to mention that, and you can find out more about that. There's another QR code there. I think I've overdone my time, but I hope I haven't said anything more than necessary. So yes, not only should you buy some pictures, but you should, if you think you know other people who would like this kind of art, please tell them. It's going to run for 2 weeks, so just drop in, and thank you very much. That's all I can do.